Hey friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. With Amazon Prime Day right around the corner, I wanted to give you 10 ways to organize your craft room with things you can find on Amazon. I don't know anybody out there who wouldn't like to be a little bit more organized in their craft space. Organizing is basically what keeps me sane running this blog and YouTube channel, and so today I want to share some of the ways that I have organized my things inside my studio that you can find on Amazon. These are 10 things that I use on a regular basis. I didn't just want to give you a list of things I've never used and say, good luck, these will probably work for you. These are things that I use every day in my craft room. I will also be honest and say that many of the storage solutions that I have here in my craft room can't be found on Amazon, and they do run a little bit more expensive. So I've got some Create Room cubbies, I've got some Husky tool chests, I have so much IKEA furniture, but for this video I wanted to focus on less expensive solutions from a very accessible source so that you can get more organized in your craft room. And if you do see something in this video that I don't talk about, go ahead and leave me a comment and I will give you all the details. Before we get into these storage solutions, I want you to go through your things, purge, cull. You don't need to store things that you are never going to use, and be honest with yourself. You know what you're going to use. I kept forever. I had all of this metal stamping materials that were sent to me by a brand. I kept those things for years. I moved them from California. I think I probably had them in my craft room for 10 years before this summer being like, you know what, I'm never gonna use those, and I donated them. We all have things like this in our craft space, so before you go out and buy things to organize your things, get rid of some of your things that you're not gonna use. All right, let's get to the organization ideas. I'm gonna be moving sort of from big to small, so we are gonna start with my FlexiSpot standing desk. While this doesn't have a lot of organization built into it, I find that it is actually one of my favorite things in my craft room because it goes up and down. If you've been here any length of time, you may know that I have a chronic illness, and often sitting for a long period of time can really mess with my back. So being able to stand up and sit down at this desk has been a game changer for me. There is a drawer on the front desk. I keep some important things in there, but what I really do love about this desk, in addition to it being a standing desk, is that it has all of these chargers on the front. The chargers are amazing because I have so many things to charge as a content creator, and even as just a crafter, you may as well. I have my phone, my iPad, my earbuds, my microphone. I have all sorts of things that I constantly need charged, and the last thing I want to do is sort of crawl around on the floor to plug those things in. So instead, I just use these little USB ports, and it works really well. You can buy this desk and other FlexiSpot desks on Amazon, but also check out their website because they often have really good sales. Another large piece of furniture I have is a baker's rack. Now, this is not generally something that you would find in a craft room, but I have found it to be one of the best storage solutions I have come up with. I have a lot of heat presses. Recently, Angie Holden and I came out with a class called Heat Press Roadmap to teach you all about all sorts of different heat presses. So see the link in the comments if you want to learn more information about that. But I have so many heat presses, and I use my baker's rack to store them. It gives me some really good sized shelves and some hooks. You don't need to store heat presses on a baker's rack. Of course, you can store all sorts of other things. I really, really like those hooks for all sorts of scissors and tape and things like that. The one I have is no longer available on Amazon, but I have linked a different one for you that I think is actually even better because it has a built-in power strip. And apparently I'm just really interested in being able to plug things in very easily because I love the fact that this has that power strip. So whether you have a heat press or a convection oven, or I mean basically anything, you can have a coffee maker, I don't know, you can plug them all in much more easily on the baker's rack I've linked to than the one that I have. Then there is this rolling cart with drawers, and I feel like this is one that shows up in a lot of craft rooms for good reason. I use mine to store my iron-on and vinyl scraps. I have made little vinyl hearts to go on the front so I know what goes in each drawer, but you can store so much in these drawers. They actually fit full rolls of vinyl, which is awesome. I also like that it's really light to move around, so if you have one of those craft spaces where you can't have everything out at one time, you can easily pull this cart out, use what you need, and put it back. Next up is another rolling cart, this 3-tiered rolling cart. I feel like this is another one that shows up in a lot of craft rooms because it is very handy. I use mine to store all sorts of pencils and pens and brushes, and then I keep my Cricut cords at the bottom, but obviously you could put just about anything in there. When I was doing some research for this video, I saw somebody who actually keeps their sewing machine in the top and then fabric and other sewing supplies underneath. There are so many things you can put in this cart. And again, it's mobile, so you can move it around your craft room, you can take it from where it needs to live to where you're actually working. It's really handy. The most recent addition to my craft room is this Blueprint rolling cart. Now, I needed a way to store my Cricut Venture materials because they're huge. These rolls of vinyl and iron-on are just absolutely enormous, and I had no way to store them. So I went looking for a solution, and I found this Blueprint cart. If you don't have a Cricut Venture, this might not be for you, but you could also store, wrapping paper in there, backgrounds, all sorts of other things that you may need for your crafting. All right, we've reached the point where things are small enough that I can put them on my desk. And next up is these plastic bins. Now, I feel like plastic bins get a bad rap from like a lot of influencers who have like super cute spaces. Who wants a big plastic bin? But I love a good plastic bin, and I don't want you to feel bad because your craft supplies are stored in plastic bins. They are super helpful. They are clear, which is awesome because you can see what's inside them, and they're very easy to label if you have a Cricut. So for me, I've got 9 of these bins in a big IKEA cabinet over there, and they hold all of my blanks. At least they hold all of my non-sublimation blanks. My sublimation blanks are across the room. But this is such a good way to store things as long as you know what's in the bins. I wouldn't just throw a bunch of stuff in the bins and not label them. And again, go through, cull, purge things you don't need. I do that about once a year, and it actually allows you to become really organized in your craft room with just plastic bins. And not pictured, I also have some even bigger plastic bins that I keep under a desk over here and in my craft room bathroom's shower, because I never shower out here. But again, they store a lot of really big things really easily. Another plastic bin that I'm a big fan of are scrapbook paper totes. I have a bunch of these under my desk next to that rolling cart I talked about earlier, and I store all my paper scraps in them. I also have some pattern paper and some other paper in there as well. You can store just about anything in these. It doesn't have to be paper. You can store vinyl and iron-on scraps. These actually started for me as fabric scrap containers, but now they are for my cardstock. You can store actual full rolls of vinyl and iron-on in here. They are really handy. The biggest drawback to these bins, however, is that they are a little annoying to get out because they're all stacked on top of each other. If I need something at the bottom, I do have to do a bit of rearranging to get it out, but really it's a great storage solution that doesn't cost a lot of money. If you've got a lot of pens, you may want to think about pen storage. So I do have a lot of my pens back here on my pegboard, and I do have some on that rolling cart that I mentioned before. But for my paint pens and my Tombow markers and those sorts of things that I really don't want to be storing on end, these pen storage container things are really helpful. One of my favorite things is that they are in individual layers. So you can stack them as high as you want to go, or just have a few layers if you have just a small amount of space, but they work really well for pen storage. And then I have more plastic bins. So I love these white bins. I've got quite a few of them all throughout my craft room. They hold a ton for their size, and they work really well inside cabinets. I have them labeled just like I have my other bins labeled so that I know exactly what goes inside each bin. The first couple of these bins I got were from the Container Store, and they were not cheap. So I'm really glad that Amazon has a much less expensive option. And then finally are these little Cricut mat holders. I love these little guys for storing my Cricut mats on the wall. You want to take advantage of that vertical space. This is the way to do it. So I love that these are triangular shaped, so they actually fit through the little triangle hole at the top of the mat. It holds everything really straight. I don't have a bunch of mats that are kind of hanging wonky, which I like. And they come in the colors of the Cricut mats, which is super cute. I've got a bunch of these hanging in my craft room. I've got a bunch over here on the wall. I've got a couple across the room over there. It just makes it really easy to get those Cricut mats organized. All right, there you have it. A quick rundown of 10 Amazon craft room organization ideas. I hope you found something that might work for your space. If you're looking for crafty Amazon Prime Day deals, go ahead and join my email list. I track those the entire time during Prime Day so that you can get the best deals on the things you've been looking for. You can also follow my Instagram account at HeyLet'sMakeStuff, where I'll also be sharing deals. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful or inspiring, go ahead and give this video a like. For more Cricut, sublimation, and laser content, follow my channel. I'll see you next week.